Welcome in. We are the Bourbon Brothers, and this is the Liquid Courage Show. We have a fantastic show for you tonight, but first, I want to introduce the other half of the Bourbon Brothers. He is my partner in crime, my co-pilot in this sinking truck we call a show. Ken, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How about yourself? I'm really looking forward to this tonight. I got a nice, fresh, crystal clear, beautiful block of ice here, ready for us to get into this. So
the man came prepared. He's got the clear ice.
I'm set.
All right. Well, let's jump in. If you're new to the show, the format's simple. First, we'll kick things off with a tasting and discussion of a spirit, usually a bourbon, hence the clear ice, and we will continue to enjoy said spirit throughout the remainder of the show. As for the remainder of the show, we're going to focus on a specific episode of a favorite television series where we will literally start with the pilot and work our way through episode by episode to the series finale. Tonight, we will be discussing Season 1, Episode 6 of Kurt Sutter's Sons of Anarchy. The episode is titled AK-51. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, I want to let you know that we published the show in 3 parts. You are currently watching part 1, so you're in the right place. We're going to cover the bourbon tasting, and then parts 2 and 3 will be the discussion of the episode. So please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a single show. Also, if you don't want to look at our ugly mugs, or you prefer to listen in the car or at the office, at least when you can go back to the office, you can also subscribe to the podcast version of the show at iTunes, Stitcher, and just about any other favorite location where finer podcasts are available. Also, we want to hear from you. Send us your praise, your questions, your hate comms. Let us know how we're doing, what you like, what you dislike, and what you'd like to see more of. You can leave your comments in the comments section of this video, or you can also email your questions to us at ask@bourbonbros.tv. And if your question doesn't suck, we might even answer it on a future show. And with that out of the way, let's kick this show off. Ken, what are we drinking tonight?
Well, tonight we're going to be, as agreed to, we're going to be partaking of the Larceny.
The Larceny. All right. Larceny small batch bourbon. And it, by the looks of the bottle, you've had this before.
It's I have this in my arsenal. So it's looking forward to getting into this.
Very good. Well, let's, I've already poured my glass, so I'll let you pop that bottle and get your glass poured. And while you do, I'll just give you some of the quick, the download of facts on this. So again, Larceny small batch bourbon. I think the price is right around $30. Pretty affordable.
Sounds about right.
This is a wheated straight bourbon. So we are entering the wheated bourbons, which we'll talk a little bit about. This comes from Heaven Hill Distillery. Release dates are ongoing. It's a 92 proof bourbon, typically aged anywhere from 6 to 10 years. And the mash bill is undisclosed.
Interesting.
And
why don't they want to disclose of that?
I don't know why they choose to not disclose it where others will. And although Heaven Hill does not disclose the mash bill, they do note that Larceny contains 1/3 more wheat than other competitors. So it's a fairly heavy wheated bourbon. And typically the wheat produces a sweeter bourbon. So you're getting the corn, right? Because we know that's got to be required for it to be a bourbon, and the wheat. So this is likely going to be on the sweeter side.
Okay, good. I like that.
So shall we raise a glass?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, that's a good description. It's sweeter. It's got good flavor. I don't know about you, but I'm not getting as much burn as some of the other ones we've had recently.
Yeah, which is interesting because it is a 92 proof, right? So it's not a low proof bourbon. But yeah, I definitely get some of the sweet caramel I don't get as much vanilla as some of the other bourbons, and there's quite a bit of char, a lot of smoke, more than I was expecting, actually, for a wheated bourbon. But it's nice. And Heaven Hill introduced Larceny back in September 2012, and it is heir to the wheated bourbons that make up the historic Old Fitzgerald franchise. So this is kind of their new version of a wheated bourbon. And it's interesting, Heaven Hill's probably most well known for their Elijah Craig brand bourbon, which I believe we also have coming up on a future show. I think we have
do.
that in our arsenal. And it's very close in price and proof to Larceny. The major difference being that the Elijah Craig contains rye within the mash bill versus Larceny's wheat. So similar to when we talked about the Russell's Reserve 10-year and eventually wanting to put that side by side with Eagle Rare, once we get through our Elijah Craig tasting, I think it'd be fun to come back and try the Larceny and the Elijah Craig together and compare kind of, from Heaven Hill, both close in price and proof, but one being rye based, one being more wheat dominant. Put those side by side and do a little taste off.
Yeah, sounds like a great plan.
I'm gonna have a little more here.
I'm trying to pace myself. This could get out of control way too early.
Yes, very easy to do. Now, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Larceny is the first bourbon that we've had out of Heaven Hill Distillery.
It is. It is.
Now, how much do you know about Heaven Hill?
Not a lot. I did know that Elijah Craig was affiliated, right?
Yep.
But
they make Elijah Craig. That
other
comes
than
out
that,
of the
I'm
Heaven
not
Hill
sure.
Distillery.
Not sure what else they make. Not familiar.
So what I find interesting is Heaven Hill is not only one of the oldest and largest bourbon distillers in the world, but in 2017, they did become the largest bourbon distiller in the world.
Wow. So definitely not a micro distillery.
No, and out of that one distillery, they have amassed the second largest standing inventory of aging bourbon
And where is that?
in Kentucky.
In Kentucky.
And they are the seventh largest supplier of spirits in the USA, of any spirit. Like, this is a big distillery. But here's what's going to blow you away. We've talked about several different bourbons being owned by companies like Diageo, Sarzac. Heaven Hill is still family owned.
Wow. That's an
They're the-
achievement.
They're the only family owned production house left in Kentucky.
Wow.
So
Now, I've seen they're on the Bourbon Trail. You can go there and take a
Yes.
tour, and that's one, if you ever get the chance to get out there, that I definitely want to hit.
absolutely. Absolutely. It just amazes me that they can be family owned and be the largest distiller of bourbon in the world
Yeah, that's something else.
and have the second largest standing inventory of bourbon. It's just mind boggling. So, as we sit here and enjoy some Larceny, prior to doing this show and actually having you recommend Larceny, I had never had it. And I had seen it on the shelf and just for whatever reason passed it by. And at the time, I didn't even know that it was Heaven Hill that was producing it. And then once we decided to do it for the show, I started to dig in and research it a little bit. And they've taken a unanimous decision, double gold medal. It's been named a Best Buy. It's been ranked in the top 20 of spirits by the Spirit Journal. And I got to say, as we sit here and enjoy it now, for a $30 bottle of bourbon, this thing punches above its weight.
Yeah, I'd agree. That the more I partake in it, the more warmed up I'm feeling, and the sweetness it just feels good.
Yeah, it's got a lot of flavor. And again, I think, we probably our average is closer to that $50 to $60 range, is where we typically end up, and this is almost half of that. And I would say that if you poured this and put me in a blind taste test, I don't know that I would pick this against other more expensive bourbons.
We might have to try that at some point. Of course, we'll have to rely on some other people on your end to blindfold you.
Yes, and I know that that was one of the things we do when we typically get together is we'll do some blind tasting. One of the most memorable ones when we were on a Scotch run was all of the different Johnny Walkers.
Yes, and then
That was fun.
Yep. Yeah. We'll have to do that. Let's figure out a way to do it in. We also did the Crown Royals at one point.
Yes, the Crown Royals are fun as well. Getting
Lots
into
of
some
options
Canadian
there.
Whiskey. Absolutely. And I know you're a Crown Royal fan. Is there anything that is at the top of your list right now that you've been trying?
On the Crown side, I like the XO.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've had that one. Can't go wrong with the black, but the XO is and the XR are probably my favorites right now. There are some collectors ones that are out there that I've picked up, but I haven't cracked yet. So something we can consider as well for a future show.
Absolutely. And I'm more of a traditionalist, and I do prefer kind of a straight whiskey. But I will say that as we start to approach the holiday season, there's something about when it gets cold and the holidays come, I do enjoy the maple.
The maple's great. Now, you don't want to bring the eggnog out, do you?
Oh, the maple and a little eggnog is actually delicious.
I haven't tried that.
All right, so let's stay with the Larceny. Anything that you want to know about Larceny that I haven't covered yet?
I don't know how much you would know about it, but I mean, I saw it. What jumped out at me when I first picked this up was this little keyhole there.
Yeah,
Kinda
we
looks
should
like
also notice it around the collar as well.
Oh yeah,
They've
it's
got a
up
key.
here. So just the old style lock, that has some history there. But what do you know about that? I mean, it fits in with the 1870, kind of an older, the history there. I don't know if that plays into it or not, but what do you know?
So it's interesting. Normally, if you'd asked me that question, I probably wouldn't have had an answer for you. However, and this is one of the reasons I'm a little surprised that I did pass this by on the shelf. But I am partial to that key, and that was intriguing to me because I worked my way through college as a locksmith.
Oh yeah.
So that immediately struck me when I saw it. And so I'll not only answer that question, but I'll also give you where the name Larceny comes from, which is an interesting story. The name Larceny and the key that's pictured on the bottle is derived from the story of John Fitzgerald, who legend has it was a treasury agent who used his keys that he had to the warehouses as a treasury agent to pilfer bourbon from the finest barrels. So he would go in, find the best barrels, and steal bourbon using the keys that he had as a treasury agent. And so that became known as the Fitzgerald barrels. And so the name Larceny, stealing bourbon, and the key is really an homage to that that story of John Fitzgerald going in and stealing bourbon from the best barrels. It's also a nod. I don't know whether it's true or not, but they're implying that Larceny comes from the best barrels. But that's where that name and key comes from. There was actually a guy that used his keys to get access to the bourbon barrels and take some of the best bourbon for himself.
So he was an outlaw. Was he part of the family? Was he part of the?
No, he's a treasury agent.
Just
He worked for the government.
And they named this after him.
Yeah, so I think a great story. And again, we've talked about some bourbons where there really hasn't been anything, no real major fun facts or stories behind it. And I enjoy discovering a neat story behind it. And it's one of the things I'm looking forward to when we finally make it to the Bourbon Trail and visit some of these distilleries. I know there will be some great stories.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, there's some that are just marketing, right? There's nothing behind it. So it's good to have a story like that. Great work.
So before we wrap up, should we get into the mailbag and see if we've got a few a few questions from viewers and listeners that are worth answering.
Yeah, I mean, we finally getting a few emails, so let's do it.
All right, so AKA questions that didn't suck, and we'll do 2 tonight. Brett T asks, do you plan to ever have any guests on the show like Kurt Sutter or any of the actors? Brett, God love you for thinking that this show has enough status to warrant the attention of someone like Kurt Sutter or an actor on the show. Ken, how would you answer that?
Wow, I mean, that's flattering, but I think we got a better shot at Powerball this week. What do you think?
I would agree. Yes. I think the obvious answer is if we ever had somebody willing to come on the show, absolutely. We'd absolutely have them. I'd love to have guests on the show. Even if we got to the point where there was enough of a following to have other really diehard fans that love the show as much as we do, and there was the potential to include them, I think that could be fun. So we're certainly not opposed to it. Just remember, if you haven't watched our intro video, we're 2 guys with no experience or discernible talent trying to do a show for the purpose of having fun. So I don't expect anyone to ever want to come on this show. I could barely get Ken to do this show with me. But if somebody ever wanted to, we'd certainly entertain it.
Absolutely. This is just an excuse to gear up with our collection, and
Yes,
get together every week.
Ken,
So
what was it you said before the show about your bourbon collection?
yeah, I mean, I've never owned or possessed more alcohol than I do now. So, you know, I don't even know where to put it anymore. I have so much here.
My job here is done. All right. And likewise, I'm quickly running out of cabinet space. Jennifer A. asks, do you stream the show live? And if so, where do I find it? Jennifer, no, we do not stream the show live. And there's a reason for that. There's quite a bit of things that, shall we say, get left on the cutting room floor where Ken and I just end up being a complete train wreck. We've got to back up. We do it over again and we edit it all out. So right now it is a much safer show to be recorded and edited versus live. I don't think either of us are ready for live yet.
Isn't that the truth? I think we cut about a third of it out by the time it's all said and done, right?
I think you're right. So thank you for your questions. And again, if you have a question for the Bourbon Brothers, please leave it in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or email it to us at ask@bourbonbros.tv. And again, as we always say, if your question doesn't suck, we might even answer it on a future show. And that is going to do it for part 1. Next, we are going to get into our discussion of Sons of Anarchy, Season 1, Episode 6, titled AK-51. Please remember to like and subscribe. Check out our channel for more shows. But most importantly, top off your glass and join us for part 2. It's all coming up next on the Liquid Courage Show. Stay with us.